The furlers just snapped. Big wind, wave, snapped in half. It's in the water, I just need to get it out. Oh, this is a disaster. The wind's blowing 25 knots and where it's snapped I can't get it off. I don't know if I just have to let it go because I'm drifting now. What else I can do? I feel defeated. Hoping I can get back now because I'm hardly moving. Right, so I am tied up. Yeah, it was a scary experience. So what happened? I left La Ciotat to come back to here because here it's a port I lived in like 3 winters ago, and they told me that when I got here they were really welcoming and stuff, and they told me a few days after, when I was then due to leave with some crew that I had on board to go sail over to Mallorca, they told me that the weather, they asked me if I'd seen the weather forecast, and I was like, here I have no signal, like literally it's almost zero. And I said no, so he took me in, showed me on the laptop, and yeah, the weather then for the next 2 weeks was looking really, really bad. The crew I had on, that I was gonna like teach them bits, like slowly making the way around to Barcelona before then doing the crossing, but in that weather that I needed to know like from the off, it was be unsafe. And with the rigging how it was, I got here and I looked for a bit of a solution to get it fixed, and I couldn't find one. So I made the decision to not go. Weren't easy because that was my plan, to go make money, and that will be in the upcoming videos when it comes around. So because it weren't safe, I decided not to go. As I say, it was a hard decision because then I'm here and I'm thinking, what now? And so yeah, so I had to break the bad news to them, dropped them off. I took them back to La Ciotat from here because, you know, they had the bags and stuff, and I felt like I'd let them down anyway, so I needed to get them back to where I'd picked them up from. No, sorry, I picked them up from Cassis, but it's not easy to get from Cassis. So there was like a bit of a window to get to Cassis and back. I planned on doing it in 1 day, but left quite late, and then I just didn't really fancy coming back over in the dark. It's quite hard to get in here in the dark because it's absolutely pitch black. Like when you're approaching it, you wouldn't know it was here. Then it opens up into a cove, and then eventually you can see it. It's not like other ports. It's called a calanque, but it's actually, if you imagine a bit like a fjord, you have cliffs on either side and it goes through into a gorge, whichever word you want to use. So it looked like it was still alright to come back in the morning. Then there was a few problems in the morning. By the time I'd actually set off, there was a lot of swell, and motoring into it, I had like 5 litres in the boat, 5 litres in the tank, and I do that so I know if it, you know, the litres run out that's in the, oh sorry, I've got about 5 litres in the boat and then about 8 litres in the carrier, so that's should be alright. Like it should take about 3 to get over there, but I was going straight into some big waves, and there's a little channel you have to go through. Went through that channel and just realised how slowly I was moving because it was up down, and then straight back up, down. So I was like, I'm going to have to use a sail if I want to get there, or go back. The problem is, as I left Le Ciotat port, the wind was quite strong anyway. It was really difficult to get out of my place. I had to actually get someone to like help in the end, because as soon as I try untie like the back goes, the front onto the next boat, and then you can't obviously just engine out whilst you're on the next boat. So it was hard enough getting out, and as I was coming out I saw a boat come in. I looked behind and they was taking the one place that was left, so going back weren't an option. So I turned around and got behind this little island and managed to just get out of the wind, put the engine into neutral to have a think. Thought, right, I'm gonna have to get the sail up and then get around. Anyway, the autopilot then gave up on me, but once I'd put the head sail up, so because that happened, I couldn't keep the boat on course long enough to get the main sail up, and maybe I picked the wrong sail to put up, but because going direct into the wind, manoeuvring just the mainsail on my own, it's quite difficult. So anyway, the way it was set up, and what I've said before is probably the problem, is as I was then, because it was up then and the autopilot had stopped, as I set off the boat set off itself, like it just turned. It was meant to be going in towards the wind. As I was put the sail up, it half went up, the boat had turned, caught wind. I had to come back, like jam the tiller, get back, I got it the rest of the way up, tacked around the island and tacked out so that I could tack back in. I'd already done the out tack for about an hour maybe, and then tacked that way for an hour to then come back, so it was going to make it a longer journey anyway. But with a sail up, the boat moves a lot calmer than without the sail up, or a lot, because it's doing what it's supposed to do. Done the tack, coming in, and the line's just right. I'm like heading direct towards where I need to go, and then I could sense how strong it was just with a head sail going into the wind. The boat was going quite quick, but wanted to lean towards that way, so I was at the back just trying to keep it in line the best I could. But when you've got waves, that it's quite tricky to do that. Anyway, the next minute a bigger wave came, like, because if you've got gusts, the swell's always forecast on the constant wind, but then some big gusts come, and then one of the bigger previous gusts must have caused a fairly big wave. As I'm in the middle of going over that, you can't, as hard as you try, the boat under sail changes direction, so it's gone back the other way. That's then knocked the sail towards the other way. Then a huge gust of wind has come, and it's just hammered the head sail back across the boat, and as it's done it, there was just an almighty snap at the top and in the middle, and the whole thing just went crashing down into the water on the side. So I quickly got turned the engine off, because weirdly in them situations, even though you should panic, it is panicky, I did know to turn the engine off, because the last thing I needed was a sail wrapped around the propeller. So then that was down. I'm going to take you out of the wind. Yeah, so then from there, the situation is the sails come down, it's in the water. I can see the snapped pole on two ends. There's the one that's on the sail that's in the water, and the other still on the deck, and the sail's obviously still through the tack and attached to the top of the furler, which is now in the bottom, well, in the water. So from there, yeah, I turned the engine off. Getting the phone to film it weren't my priority. I had obviously thought what to do first, but I wanted to show the thing, but I made sure I recorded it from safety of the cockpit rather than running up to the front with my phone. There weren't anything I could do very quickly anyway. So then I could see that the drum for the furler was like still just creaking away and the boat now, because the engine's off, once the boat engine is off and the boat's just in waves, it stops like moving through and taking the waves to just being all over the place, turning. And the boat's got quite a high deck, and the same with the cockpit. Like, I've been thinking for a while, I wished I'd got a boat where at least in the cockpit you feel a little bit more secure. It's something I hadn't considered when I got it, and it's quite nice for certain things. You know, when you're at anchor and you've got like a high up cockpit and you feel like you're up here rather than sat in somewhere, but in that situation you'd rather just be sat in and feel a bit more secure. I've sat on like other boats, it's hard to explain, but yeah, when I'm sat up in the cockpit I don't feel very protected, and likewise if I'm stood up in the cockpit, I'm quite tall anyway, I feel I could fall from being stood in the cockpit and very easily end up in the water. So yeah, there I was. I've got to go up to the front, but as well with the boat, it's got a slightly curved deck, and once the waves have been hitting and stuff, it's quite slippy on there. So something I've said or will say in the upcoming videos is how I've debated painting over it with anti-slip. It won't look as nice, but does it matter? The reason I didn't was selling boat trips. Obviously people like a nice white boat, and it is that, but then it's not really suitable when you need to get to the front in a rush. Because I weren't planning on any of that really happening, I weren't like harnessed onto the side, and something's happened in the middle of all that where the running rigging on either side is absolutely just all out of shape. So yeah, so I've had to like make sure I keep on, and I've had to like almost sit down and scoot myself to the front of the boat. The drum's like clattering against, and that's attached with like a split pin, and my pliers must have got like some water in them or something, and they wouldn't come apart. I eventually like whacked them, got them apart, but then they wouldn't clamp the thing. Split pins are not easy to get out at the best of time, even with the pliers, but that's stopping me being able to get the drum off. So it's stuck on that end, and then obviously now there's a whole sail in the water, and I'm trying to pull it because the pole's there too, and it's bent around. That wouldn't come up either, and I must have tried for about 20 minutes to get it up, and I just couldn't. So then I tried to like, I like broke open a bit so I could get the tacks out, and I managed to pull like some of it out, but then another gust of wind, and then the tacks that I pull out went further into the water too. So by then there was nothing I could do, and the last thing I wanted to do was not even for the expense of that sail, like it took me a long time to find. Obviously the furloughed game over for that anyway, but yeah, not necessarily the expense of the sail, but more just I really didn't want to like leave it in the sea. But by that point I'd probably nearly ended up in the water about 3 times. That pole that was snapped, obviously as I'm leaning over it and a wave come, that was a sharp pole. Like at one point it must have been inches away from my face, and yeah, I feel bad that I've let that go to the bottom of the sea. But in the end, I could not get it up, and if I'd have ended up in the water, the waves were that strong that yeah, you'd imagine like I'd just land at the side of the boat and be able to swim back on, and maybe I would have, but all it would take is that current that was caused by the waves to be too strong for me to then drift away from the boat. In the end, I had to cut it. I managed to get the drum off from the bottom, and obviously the lines were still all attached, and I couldn't get to them because that part of the sail was now in the water too. So yeah, I've had to cut the lines and then pick up the drum, and it weren't easy, but drop it. And honestly, like, I can't tell you how haunting it was just watching something like sink the way that it did. Like, it was quite scary. The whole thing was quite scary, but that image of that, like, just in the water, just disappearing, like, that scared me quite a bit. I remember weirdly having a dream months ago where I got stuck in the water, and it was I was stuck with the spinnaker. And yeah, it's just a dream, I know, but I was stuck with the spinnaker, and the spinnaker got wrapped and into, you don't want to end up in the water with a sail, like, and ropes. It's, yeah, I had to drop it and watch it sink, and then from there put the motor back on and just beat into the waves for like 4 hours, because that's how long it took. And then I got back here in the dark, tied the boat up, and yeah. The thing was, setting off too, I was already knew that I weren't going to the Canary Islands, and I said to myself before I set off, and even when I got into the waves, I just have to do this trip and then tie up in the port, and then, you know, I'm out of it. I don't have to worry about anchors dragging and all of this. I've just got a bit of time then to like sort stuff out. And then yeah, that happened, and then that was not yesterday, the day before. And then I got in, tied the boat up. I was tired as well, so I fell asleep. But like before that, I just knew out in the morning. So yesterday morning I was going to get up, and the reality of the boat just being broke now was pretty hard to take. So that's what happened. I know people probably watch that and think it's your own fault, and I know it is my own fault. Then part of you don't want to post it because you know you're going to get loads of people saying, maybe in a kind way, but you're an idiot. And as I said, I just had to do that one last bit, and then I could work out from there what to do. The port here, as I've said, quite nice. They've told me I can. They've not pressured me for like payment, and they've even said they'll do me like a good price. But I'm gonna get onto that in the next video of what's next. But yeah, I'm aware it's my own fault. At the same time, the reality of the situation was I had to do something. I couldn't sit at anchor at Juan-le-Pan, where I was for the rest of time and the winter. And then in the build up to that happening, there were a few things that happened. I let a few people down too, which weren't great, and that didn't obviously help your mood. And there was like a boat trip I was meant to do, but it was for like quite a lot of people, and then something happened, I couldn't do that. And then I was meant to pick someone up, and I couldn't do that. And then there was just like a series of things, and yeah, the last thing, I just needed to drop them off because it was like, as I say, it was my responsibility to get them somewhere so that they could carry on doing what they were doing or whatever. And ideally I didn't want to go back over to La Ciotat. Why didn't I just stay in La Ciotat when it was windy? Well, I'd already kind of agreed with here that I was going to stay here, and there's going to be some sort of like expense to that. I'm not sure what it is yet. That they couldn't be nicer to me when I arrived. Not this time, but before I had to go back out and drop them off when I arrived here. I was on a mooring buoy just outside the port, and I arrived in the night time on, maybe it was a Saturday, so on the Sunday maybe I didn't see anyone, but then on the Monday when they were all back at work, the captain came by to do like a patrol in the boat in the morning, and they were like looking like, is that him, is that him? And then they came over and they were like, I always looked forward to coming back in here and seeing them again. It probably, if it hasn't already, it will come up in the upcoming videos, because this place was home for like a whole winter, and it's where I took the boat I had before, and kind of the first time I ever moved a boat, which there's a flashback video of me being here on that boat before. So I was always looking forward to coming back here, and very quickly, in a short space of time, it felt like I've come back in here, and they were like, oh, what have you been doing? Do you still work on the campsite? And I said, no, I've been doing boat trips. I've lived now on the year on the boat for a whole year, trying to make money that way. And you could see they were like, when I first ever arrived here, nobody spoke to me. You could just tell they just thought I was just another chancer who had bought a boat. And it was quite nice for a few days to show that way, and now I just feel like that's what I'm showing again. But yeah, I do know some of the things I've been doing I shouldn't have been doing. I know that I shouldn't have been sailing that boat with the rigging how it was, but I was doing it because I kind of had to. And yeah, I didn't make the wrong call to go do the crossing with the boat in the state it was in. So this was always plan B, was to come here. The problem is now it's the boat and how expensive that's going to be to sort. So yeah, that's this update. I obviously shot a bit differently. My hard drive reader on the laptop seems to have got wet, probably in all of that going on the other day, and it's not working when I plug it in. So video wise, I'm trying to find a small star screwdriver to open it up, see if I can clean it and get that working. It's not that one that's got all of the footage on. That's just the one that has the operating system for the MacBook on. So that's the MacBook I can still use because it has its original one. This was just plugged in externally to just to run the operating system that was on my previous MacBook that got broke. So I hope I can get that working, but even if I can't, I should still have most of the footage of the last however many months. Regarding getting them videos on, if I can't get that working, I'm gonna have to re-edit them. It's annoying because I had like 6 videos pretty much ready to upload. I was just waiting for some well, enough battery really. It were internet, then I had internet on my phone, but then I didn't have battery. Now I'm in the opposite situation where I can charge the laptop quite easily, but I have no signal here. So even if I get it working, I might just have to occasionally go somewhere where I do have some signal and upload them from there. But they are still coming. So, and after a few days of pondering, yeah, obviously I've had to put myself together to make this video. Yeah, as I say, the build up to all of this happening, quite a few things happened, and it was all a bit, I think everything was getting on top of me. I knew it was coming up to, it's probably today, I don't know the exact date, but it was a date somewhere in the middle of October where I got back, where I came, got on the boat, and that's when all of this started. So coming up to that and the lack of progress has been a bit hard to deal with, and then knowing that winter's coming again, and I weren't ever intending on being here for another winter. So that, and then the last bit is like obviously picking up. I did try record a a few daily updates, and I was just picking the thing up, and I was just struggling to explain anything properly. So yeah, that's why I've been a bit absent recently. So yeah, in the next video I'll record it the same on my phone, and I'm gonna go over the pros of being here, the cons of being here, and the plan going forward. So yeah, the date today is the 16th of October. I'm not sure when I'll have enough signal to get this video on. I'd like to then say the next update would be the day after. I'm going to make it tomorrow, but again, I don't know when I'll be able to get it on. And then in that video, I'll explain my plan. But I don't plan on going anywhere. So, as in, away from YouTube, away from trying to sail around the world, I've just hit a bit of a big wave. So, but thank you to everyone who's commented recently. A few people messaged to ask if I'm okay, and thank you obviously as always to everyone for watching the videos. If you could give it a thumbs up, it's appreciated, just because then it gets to more people, as I've said before. And for the Patreons, this month, I'm not sure, has it been a month since I've uploaded a video? Possibly. If I don't want to feel like people are supporting something that's not happening, so if you give me a message, I think the payments, when they do go in, I think it's near the end of the month, I'm happy to like send them back, because obviously you pay to watch videos and there's not been any videos. So yeah, but I'm all right, so that's the main thing. I'll see you next time.